Okay. Go ahead.
You can hear us now? Oh, I could even hear that. Good evening. We are opening the town board meeting of the town of Amenia on, don't tell me, Thursday, March 20th, 2025. And I would like to open the meeting. And then I'd like to move that we go into executive session.
Leo,
I'll second.
Nicole. And that's for the purposes of discussing personnel matters and seeking legal counsel advice.
Okay, that sounds good.
The time now is 6:07. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you,
Robert.
Robert. Not right. We just need Brad, right, and then we can start.
Look at us,
Oh,
matching,
yeah,
matching.
just
Oh, yeah, look at that. I think mine is
Mhm.
yeah.
We're waiting.
All right, just need Brad, and we will start. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Thursday, March 20th meeting of the Amenia Town Board. We finished an executive session, and I move that we open this one.
So you're making a motion to exit executive session?
Sure, Dawn, if you say so.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And let the record reflect time is 7:08. I know, that's, we
Okay.
didn't put the new battery in that one.
Oh, I see. So let's start by saluting the flag as we always do. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The emergency exits are where they always are. The door you came in and this door over here. And Dawn, take the roll, please.
Supervisor Blackman?
Here.
Council members Ahern?
Here.
Wheeler?
Here.
And Ham?
Here.
Everyone's here.
Everyone's here. I just want to make a motion that we approve tonight's agenda.
Are we,
I'll
What?
second.
are we removing an item off the last resolution?
Yes.
We want to do an amendment.
Oh, I don't even
One
have
last
that.
one.
Oh,
Yes. So.
Oh, no, he does not.
but
Okay,
that was
but
under
we're,
He
non-consent
doesn't
agenda.
have my packet.
Oh, yours is further down,
so
sorry.
we're tabling that, right? We're moving it?
So Supervisor, it looks like with the motion to go ahead and approve tonight's agenda, we are removing the appointing of the Amenia grant writer resolution on the non-consent agenda.
Okay, so we just have one under the non-consent
One.
agenda. See, so I was right.
Is
Okay,
there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
no. Okay, well, there you have it. Let me do the supervisor's report. Here we go. The highway garage is still on target to bid the project at the end of July, which amazes me, but the architects have been great. And we also completed the union contract with the highway crew today. The water district, we approved the bonding of our critical drinking water projects at a special meeting the 11th of March, as we said we were going to do. The sidewalk to Beekman Place, we actually received a lower than expected bid, so we are going to be able to go ahead with that. We were concerned because New York State DOT added a whole bunch of other requirements that we weren't expecting, but we're actually in good shape on that, and we do have the permit from DOT, so we can start construction momentarily. Fountain Square, I handed off the electric and paving drawings to a contractor this morning for estimating. Once we know approximately what the prices are, we'll know what kind of bid process we have to go through, but I figured it was good to get an estimate on that. The Wasaic Center, we also just got, the survey was handed to me about half an hour ago. Finally, it's here. And so now Enhancement gets started on their work on the center of Wasaic. Main Street, I spoke to the head of the New York State Department of Transportation Region 6 Traffic Department about what's required for us to do traffic calming downtown and make changes to the parking, since everyone complains about not getting a space at the post office. Mark Morrison, who I said last time did a proposal for Main Street in 2004, is going to present that design to us on April 17th, 20 years after the fact, and Charlie is going to introduce that tonight. In terms of grants, I emailed all our Dutchess County, New York State, and U.S. elected representatives regarding obtaining member items and mailed hard copies about Amenia capital projects to all of them. We don't know if there will be member items, but if there are, we're in line. We received a proposal from the AV consultant this morning. I don't know what's happening, it's sort of freaky, but everything's been coming in at once, which is good. For a new system in this space, it was incredibly detailed, and we just had to decide how much work we'd be doing to the audio system. There were two prices, but either way, it's certainly within our budget, especially since we have $15,000 in the bank from, not Optimum, Cablevision. Altice, that's it, because that was the deal that was struck with them. So hopefully we can get on that pretty quickly now that we finally have a design for that. The graphic designer, we had expected to receive sketches before the meeting, but he's been sick, so hopefully we'll get that next time. The town web designers are gathering information for, well, Charlie too, is gathering information for the department and committee pages. So we're trying to get all the information that's needed from each department and each committee to go on the website on their sort of first front page. And the LED sign has been reposted for bid. Is that it? Did we get that back before the next meeting? I think we do. What?
As soon as it's given. We're working on that.
Oh, okay, we're working on it. But hopefully that will go and come back fairly efficiently. And that's the supervisor's report.
I have a question about the graphic designer.
Yeah.
We had some people that had submitted
Mm-hmm.
designs. Are any of those going to be used, or, I
We
mean?
haven't seen anything. We told them to, I mean, he's aware of, that was all sent to him.
Okay.
But he just is, and we're not going to see anything until we see
Okay.
his first sketches, which we haven't seen yet. Okay, Dawn, I think it's time for the town clerk report.
Okay, so I'm going to start with my tax collector count. Just to report to the board and to our public that of the $9 million collected, or that is due to be collected, in our taxes collected through 5/13 tonight, $7,339,433.83. Collected in penalties, $1,496.37, with a total remaining uncollected, $1,668,867.04. And just to kind of give a different breakdown, because numbers are a lot, we have 2,031 total parcels, and with only a remaining of 178 that are unpaid. Shows that as a breakdown. For our abstract, at this time I am seeking authorization for the supervisor to pay claims in the abstract as broken down as follows. General fund, $126,071.49. Highway fund, $27,561.12. Amenia lighting, $1,217.58. Wasake lighting, $461.82. Amenia water, $18,434.88 for this evening's total abstract. $173,746.89. And again, I'm seeking authorization for the supervisor to pay claims as presented.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Supervisor?
Yes.
Councilmembers Ahern?
Yes.
Rebler?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Marge will be happy. Also, I just want to go ahead and acknowledge circulation and receipt from our building department report, our animal control report, our balance and operating statements that were all circulated. And that'll conclude the town clerk's report.
Wow, that was fast. So are there any other committee reports, I guess, that people are expecting to make? Judy? Which committee would that be, Judy?
That would be recreation.
Okay.
You can have any public comments?
Okay, so I wanted, first of all, to thank the the Upstate Celtic, I forget their name, I'm sorry, band, but they had a concert here on Sunday, which was lovely and very well attended, so that was really nice. The town and the Recreation Commission shared the cost of that. We also had an activity on St. Patrick's Day for children. They searched for coins and had a wonderful time. let's see, and we have asked the town board, we need to look into it more, but the Recreation Commission has asked the town board for permission to purchase a new piece of playground equipment to replace the broken one at Beekman Park. So once we have more details nailed down on that, we will bring that, but we're trying, so
Good.
that's that.
Judy, is that replacing all the equipment that's there now, or just the one piece?
It's more than what's there, but it's replacing that one piece.
The big main
Okay.
piece?
Yeah.
The swings are staying.
Okay, got it.
Right, it's just that, yeah, it's the, the,
The playground.
yeah, the metal pieces, yeah.
Great. I realized that I didn't make room for public comments. I don't know how that happened. But if anyone has any comments that they'd like to make at this point in the meeting, that would be great. Just, how did I know?
Yeah, I just have questions. At Ken Topolsky, Cascade Mountain Road. My questions, you mentioned Fountain Square sending out to a contractor to do electrical work. Also, when it comes to the sidewalks, are these local Amenia contractors? Have we gone to Amenia providers first? Have we made sure that they have an opportunity to bid before we go to outside towns?
You're so mistrustful of me. I don't understand. Ken. What
Not
have I done to you?
mistrustful. The committee that I was recently assigned to, that's part of our job, to help Amenia flourish now and into the future.
The contractor that I spoke to this morning is an Amenia contractor.
Good.
But and I wanted him to do an estimate so we know what our bid process has to be, that there are thresholds depending on how expensive it is. We will have to, in all probability, at least get 3 quotes from 3 contractors. He would certainly be one of them. And, if it's beyond a certain amount of money, then we have to go to a formal bid.
Now, I understand the bid process. Is there a way, and this would be for Ian, is there a way that we can almost have a point system where a local contractor has some benefit by being in Amenia, employing people who live in Amenia, over an outside contractor?
So, you have to take the lowest responsible bidder. You also have a local law for best value. And if there are elements in the equation that would lead to a more local person, then we could award a bid in such a fashion. Just solely because they happen to be local, that type of favoritism is what the law is designed to prevent.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? That was a lot of hands waving. Who wants to speak?
Are we going public here?
No, we're not. I wanted to see if anyone else had questions. Walter, public comment, thank you.
Public, yes. Good evening, board members. Walter Dietrich, 4887 Route 22. First, I see on the agenda that you are discussing the downtown area for safety, parking, and connectivity, etc. I think this is admirable, although I'm not sure why parking and speeding in the hamlet is a separate discussion item, because I believe these two are inseparable. Recently, I met with several of my neighbors, and this subject came up in discussion. For a long time, I've been talking about and working on the problem of our very own speedway, Route 22. Obviously, I'm joking, but it's a real problem. Unfortunately, as you said, Leo, and as some of you also know, working with the DOT is a nightmare. They are unresponsive, and when you can reach someone, they are no help at all. In any event, it is my belief that when you speak of quote-unquote downtown area, this should be a minimum including Beekman Park on 44 to the cemetery on 343, and from Lake Amenia Dunhill Roads to North Road or even Perry's Corner on 22 and the surrounding streets, not just 343 and 22 in that little, Fountain Square area. In our group's conversation, I found out something I did not know, but is not surprising. It appears that people are avoiding the stoplight in town by using Broadway as an alternate route to and from routes 44 and 22. I will advise that Broadway has also become a speedway in the town. As Broadway is a town road, we should be easily able to address this situation without having to appeal to DOT. A suggestion might be to add more stop signs, or the addition of speed bumps on Broadway would curtail these people from racing down a side street where children play and people walk their dogs. In addition, I think it behooves the board to lower the speed limit in many of our town roads, especially the quote-unquote downtown area, to 30 miles per hour, as Pauling recently did. Regardless, something needs to be done to the numerous offenses that occur daily on each road. Secondly, I'm unsure what past Amenia Hamlet report is about, but I'm going to bring this up again. On behalf of the Historical Society, I hope it includes a follow-up on the Wasaic Kilns. Thank you.
Okay. Bill, were you going to? Oh, committee? You want to give a committee
So
report?
just as a public comment, just to acknowledge receipt and circulation to the town prior to the start of the meeting, we did receive a public comment from Stacy Mansell regarding the Choice Words contract, that she was against the board moving forward with it.
Okay. So I'm sorry, you want to give a committee report for? Water and both, please. You ready? Yeah, go ahead. I'll try.
Hi, Bill Flood. I'm the chairman of the Water Committee, and I'd just like to tell you that we'd like to thank you for moving forward with the process of fixing the wells and the Laval Road property. Obviously, it's needed badly. And I also had a conversation with the local fire chief. There was a fire on 44 recently in the village, and they did have to use a hydrant. There was plenty of water, but no pressure. So I think at this point, it's time that we start some kind of a capital improvement plan for a water system that is granted for fire. It's not a fire rated system that we have. So at some point, we're going to have to upgrade it to that. So I'm not saying now, but we have to start planning for it for the future. It's got to be done at some point.
Okay.
As far as the water, the meters, most of the meters have been fixed. We're doing okay with the water meters readings. A couple that we're still having problems with, but I know they're working on it. They're going to start the valve project soon, right? This week they're going to start. So there's a lot of stuff happening with the water company, so that'll be it's a good thing. Number two, the comp plan. We have hired Pace Law, and their firm as well. So that was done, which we appreciate. Our first meeting will be April 8th. It's 6 p.m. here. I think we'll probably meet upstairs. Pace will be giving a introduction as to what they're going to do and so on and so forth. So the public is welcome to any meeting. We'd like to see you there. We have a great committee and a lot of work to do. So that's it. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Back to water. You've got a recommendation to meter the town hall, the Beekman Park, and so on and so forth, and we hope you'll move forward with that. Allow us to meter the public.
Could you just explain the intent? Because it seems to me that it's tax money either way.
Correct.
Okay.
So in the past, the town has not paid any water bills, nor
Right.
has the Beekman Park. The fire department does pay at this point. There's been a recommendation that we meter the town hall and meter Beekman Park
Okay.
to see you know, how much. Correct. Everybody, you're in the water district using the water, so. Correct.
Okay.
Right, well, no, they would get a bill just saying, the fire department's a private organization, they're not a public organization, so it's a little bit different. So you'd have to pay the bill,
Okay. Fine.
okay, and we'll charge you double.
Perfect. Okay. The presentation, which is, oh, Vicki, sorry.
Vicki Doyle, 320 South Amenia Road. I wanted to just say that we had a CAC meeting here last night, and we had on our agenda and discussed the CAC EMC roundtable, which will be held Wednesday, the 26th of March at the Farm and Home Center, and we will be participating in that roundtable for all the CACs and EMCs in the area. And that we are going to be sponsoring Earth Day, as I spoke about last time. Earth Day will be celebrated in Amenia anyway on Saturday, April 26th, with the townwide cleanup happening at 9 a.m. to noon. And at that time, we would ask volunteers and neighborhoods and organizations to clean up a section of the road, and we'll have a utility trailer available to pick up larger items or items on town roads, and can get that to the transfer station by noon, 12:30 on the 26th. At 2 o'clock, we're going to work with the Garden Club to put on a lecture at the library. That'll be an environmental theme. We also talked about the status of the grants that the CAC has and the Climate Smart Task Force has been marshaling, and one was the landfill biofilter grant. In other words, there's a grant that we were, amongst other towns in this area, that were awarded a grant to help ameliorate the methane gas that's emitted from our landfill, which contributes 90% of our greenhouse gases that the municipality itself, our facilities give up. And so they are going to be, like in Millerton and our town, and I believe it was Rhinebeck, we have landfills that are reclaimed and were awarded this grant so that we can put something like a raised garden bed filled with materials that will help comb out the methane gases, the harmful gases. We also talked about the EV charging station, and I would look forward to working with Choice Words or whoever is there, because it is a very complicated application. We were awarded the funding, and now to complete the work has been complex, but we're looking forward to getting that done. The planning board projects that we've been following include the Cascade Creek plan for subdivisions, and we submitted an alternative conservation subdivision that we recommended be considered by the planning board. We also looked at the Cumberland Farms application, recent application for changes there. And one of our volunteers, Marianne Pitts, has recommended that we plant a tree, a native dogwood, I think, where a dead tree currently exists at the beginning of the rail trail in the hamlet of Wassaic. When we created that section of rail trail and got the grant funding and all of that done, we planted trees along the way, and one right in front of Maxon Mills between the railroad tracks and Maxon Mills is a dead dogwood, and she would like to do a town-sanctioned ceremony on Arbor Day, which we would probably do on Friday the 25th, but we're still planning it, and we would like to plant it there or somewhere else. And we're looking for guidance from the town to say, yes, that's what we'd like to do, is take, have the dead tree is gone, but we'd like to plant in its place a new tree.
Is that property
It is.
part of the rail trail? Or?
It's part of our easement that we got to extend
Oh,
our rail trail.
okay.
So we have the easement, we did the planting before, we'd like to do it again. And we're just confirming the location of where you guys would like to do it, that you'd like to be part of that ceremony. And we'd like to do that as a kickoff to a bigger goal, which is to potentially become a Tree City USA, like some of the other towns around here. So it would be one step of the steps. Many steps are involved in becoming a Tree City USA, but that was Mary Ann's idea, and we'd like to hear from you if that's in line with your goals.
Okay, sounds delightful, but becoming a Tree City, will you just send us some information as to what
Tree
that
City USA,
involves?
easy I'll send you the link probably, and there's an outline of the steps. Step 1 is free, easy. We just plant a tree because the garden club has already agreed to provide a specimen for us.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Oh, Megan is here. Do you want to do a highway report, or were you just hanging?
Thanks, hi. First of all, happy spring, finally. Hopefully we won't see any more snow. So our equipment held up fairly well this winter. We finally did get the 1 ton to the village of Northeast to help them out for the rest of the winter after the fire. We've had a lot of little storms this winter. We've had a lot of ice. We did go through a lot of material. We went, and we had a lot of overtime, a lot of after hours, nights, holidays, weekends. We see them like every weekend here towards the end. The wind's been a little windy lately, but everything's been good. A lot of little things down, nothing major. Guys did a good job checking roads and cleaning what they gotta clean up. And then with the warm weather comes the dirt roads. We've put stone pretty much on all of them here and there. We've graded where we can, when we can, but they're not too bad. They've been actually pretty good. Knock on wood so far. But they do have their bad spots. And then Monday, when it was misting, a little rainy, sidewalks were a little wet. We went around Amenia NY, blew them off with the leaf blowers. And we started doing our sweeping out with the loader where we can, cleaning up our intersections. And finally, we are scheduled to sweep all of our roads next Tuesday, March 25th, 26th, and 27th, weather permitting. If everyone could please park in your driveway off the streets so we can get the sweeper in and out and move on. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Was that it? Any more excitement?
I have something from the Enhancement Committee.
Oh, good.
This Saturday, the 22nd, at 9 a.m., I believe we're meeting at the Fountain Square to clean up the trees in the containers, starting at 9 a.m. And so it will be Fountain Square, the library, and the town hall. There will be a truck available, so anyone who wants to volunteer, please come on and join us.
Could you repeat the date, Brad?
It's Saturday the 22nd at 9 a.m.
Thank you. Great. Okay, anyone else? Last call. Okay, I wanted to introduce the next presentation, just to give some context. So I went to a presentation in Millerton that was a Main Street presentation. They had their engineer, who was actually Ty and Bond, who worked on our water system, got a group of people together, and they talked about potential work on Century Boulevard, which actually I didn't even know what the name of it was before. That's that parking street that is behind the church and parallels their main street. Anyway, so I was listening to that and the various things they were discussing to improve that lighting, sidewalks, which they don't have any of right there, and trees and such. And I thought, wait a minute, when I first got the house up here, I am pretty sure that Amenia did one of those. So I looked through the drawers in my desk, and I looked in the closet, and lo and behold, I found a plan that was done in 2004 by Mark Morrison, who's a pretty well-known landscape architect who lives 2 houses up from me on Old Route 22. And when I opened it up, I realized that a lot of it was quite relevant now, that a lot of the things he suggested have not been done and we still could use. So I had asked if he would be interested in reviving that or taking a next step, and he said he would be. I invited him to come talk to the town board, our second meeting in April, which is the 20th? The 20th of April. So please come and listen to that. But after that, I started like opening more drawers and going on, looking on other shelves. And I found 13 reports that the town has paid for, or that were done for pro bono for the town, none of which saw the light of day. Not, in other words, the reports were paid for and done by engineers or architects or landscape people, and then they just, they didn't get the first grant, and so they were never heard from again. So going through all that made me realize that we should probably see whether any of those are usable, because certainly the Main Street project and making improvements at downtown is important, but there were a lot of other things that were kind of part of that framework or pretty close to it. So I think Charlie's going to present, I know Charlie is going to present a slide deck about sort of what got found.
Everybody knows I never met a PowerPoint or an Excel sheet I didn't love. As Leo said, and I have too, over the last couple of years, people have come up and said, oh, there was a report done of that, or there was a study done of this. And so the idea is to look through some of the largest reports that have been done specifically for downtown Amenia and see if there's consensus. So just to kind of give you a list, this is sort of small, but so there's, like Leo said, in 2004, Mark Morrison did a downtown streetscape, which I have some slides of that later. In 2006, the Rec Commission did a master plan that is really incredible, and we'll link all of this on the website after tonight. They did large surveys, there is design work, it's really amazing and still very, very relevant. 2008, there was a Hamlet concept plan, which was done after the 2007 comp plan was done and the zoning changes. It's also really great. There's a lot of schematics throughout it. That was also an enormous amount of community engagement was done for that report. And then Leo had done some streetscaping in 2010. And then just last year, the Park and Rec did another master plan presentation. It didn't really have a lot of community input and engagement, but there was a lot of design work that came out of that. One element of that was the Amenia Green project. The Fountain Square, so Millbrook, the Bank of Millbrook paid their landscape designer to do a design for that. And Tracy Saladay did a design for the Beekman Park Pavilion last year as well. So there's a lot of work that is done and on the table. Lots of work. So this is a capture of Mark Morrison's plan, which the top is Main Street. So from the left is the junction of 343 and 2244, and then going just past there, the other circle is the junction of 343 and Mechanic. And then below there is actually showing Mechanic going to the railhead. And there's a lot of, by the way, in his report, there's a lot of different details there that you can actually see the full report online. This is a screenshot of the Beekman Park section of the 2006 Rec Master Plan. Again, all very relevant. It shows adding parking, actually putting a basketball court here. There is a connection, which the town actually owns this connection going to Broadway, so there's another entrance into Beekman. This is some shots out of the 2008 Hamlet Plan. There's a lot of really amazing schematics that show different versions of infilling in downtown, connecting downtown, and also a lot of feedback from a lot of the community engagement that was done for that plan. This is streetscape designs from Leo that he did in 2010, which was kind of built upon some of the Mark Morrison plan. This is the design that the Millbrook landscape designer did for Fountain Square, which is cleaning up Fountain Square, redoing a lot of the plantings truthfully, and also changing the walking paths around here. So this is the Amenia Green plan. Like some of the others, there's probably elements that some people don't want to see, but the idea is to try to find consensus amongst all of them. You know, it had extended parking, and there was a pavilion. So, like, what if we connected all of these things and tried to see where the overlap is? Well, so this is a map of downtown. A lot of people are probably familiar with it. The stars are kind of the main attraction that we have. There's the rail trail at the southern portion here, connecting that to Beekman. So there's also a lot of grants that you can get for walkability and connectivity of downtown areas. So that's a quarter of a mile to get to Beekman. It's a quarter of a mile to get to Beekman to Main Street. It's a quarter to get back to the rail trail at Mechanic. And so you can sort of see how this all starts to connect to one another. This is just an overview shot. Brickyard Pond is kind of interesting. I mean, maybe some people know that it's there or not. It's really, Lavelle is at the southern portion of it, and then that's Railroad, and then Mechanic. There has been talk, I mean, it's privately owned, but there are in a number of these reports talking about a passive recreational area that kind of comes off of Mechanic, loops sort of around the pond. You could think of it as a walking trail. You know, I don't know if it could be done or not, but, and then connects to Main Street. So the project goals of this sort of connecting the dots, working title, but that's just now, is really leveraging all the past reports that we have done. There's a lot of money, time, and energy that was spent on them. Connecting, you know, our elements of downtown, Main Street, Beekman Park, the rail trail, Town Hall, which, you know, is a bit underutilized at this point. Improving access to all of those, and in that is really traffic safety, parking accessibility, and enhancing Beekman Park, which is, you know, I think the Rec Commission has spoken about a number of things that need to happen there. And really embracing our wetlands around the downtown, which that might be the passive recreation areas that we could have, and beautifying downtown, you know, so lighting, trees, storefronts, things that we hear about all the time. And then expanding the community uses of Town Hall, possibly, you know, the auditorium, childcare, senior programs, things of that nature. And there's money in all of this, and so that kind of is a way to accomplish some of this. So this is just coming to some kind of consensus. So our idea is that we take all of these different plans, you know, bring people together and see where there is consensus to sort of action those items, and then the output would be a master plan around it all.
And the hope was that that could be coordinated with the expectation was that that would be coordinated with the comprehensive plan committee.
That's what we're getting to. Yeah. So, you know, what we would like is for the town board to tonight say, oh yeah, this is great, you're going to speak about it, or, you know, later on. And then we would put together a working group of the chairs of the committees that a lot of this overlaps. So that's Rec, Enhancement, the Comp Plan, the Economic Development, and the Conservation Advisory Committee. So it'd be sort of the chairs of all those committees would come together, go over these different reports, come to consensus, put together a community survey so that we can hear from the community, and then ultimately have, you know, a public meeting, a community engagement event that would be facilitated by the comp planner that's been hired for the comprehensive plan. And this is sort of a timeline. So the whole idea is like, we hopefully get that go-ahead tonight. And then we would work with the committee chairs over the next month or two, hoping to have some kind of pulled together presentation for the community by April. Mark Morrison's going to give his presentation in April as well, so you'll get more insight as to what he feels about that. And then, sort of throughout the rest of the spring and into the summer, community survey, and then at some point, sending out an RFQ, a request for qualifications for an architect or a landscape designer. You need to do that so that whatever work they do is reimbursable from grants. So it's a way that you ultimately select somebody. You don't necessarily hire them for an amount of money, but it's selected, and then you could find out what the project-based work is. And this would all culminate in us putting together an application for New York Forward. So New York Forward is a program that is for all of New York. It's broken down into certain sections of the state. There's a lot of money for it. It's really for downtown revitalization. It's kind of under that program. Some of the awards are very large. It could be up to $4.5 million. And ultimately what you're doing is you're applying to them and saying, we have this grand idea with all these different things inside of it. You don't have to have tons of specifics, but it needs to sort of have a cohesive narrative around it and demonstrated that you've had community engagement to produce it. And then project funding. There's been a lot of people who really want to see downtown revitalized, a lot of things to actually change. I personally think that we could easily raise $1 million from private donations using a pyramid type approach to that. It's exactly what they did in Millerton for their pool, and we could use that kind of template. And then this is just a list of the various different types of grants. It's not all of them, but there are grants that would pay for elements of this. The $600,000 park and preservation grant. So that is what the rec committee applied for last year. That could be there. There is money for senior centers and infrastructure for communities. That could be money that could be used to build out the auditorium. There's things like that. And then there's congressional member items. Let's see. I think that's probably all I have there. I'm more than happy to answer any questions people might have.
So the initial part of this would not cost any money. So it's just a matter of us having the chairs come together of the committees and have a discussion and so it's within the town, right?
Yes. There's no money that would be, and I've spoken to the chair of the comp plan and committee, and they seem happy for their first community engagement session to include this. So even that comp time is already built into that contract.
And I missed it. Was the Economic Development Committee?
Yes, and I will say I've spoken to all the chairs of all the committees except enhancement. I haven't called Betsy, so I'm sorry. But all the other chairs were excited to participate and, bring consensus together. Maybe not excited, but I am.
Not exactly clear, let's put it that way.
That's an ambitious timeline you have.
It is, but I will say all of the work is in a report, so it is really, so much work has been done. It's kind of remarkable. It's sort of like, the highway garage feasibility study was 90% done, and it just needed to be taken over the line. It's like the work for the water district had been done 3 times and just needed to be pushed forward. So I think the idea here is to, pull all of these things together. So, and there's a lot of sub-projects inside of this, but that it's all together and we're working towards actually accomplishing something that I think there's going to be a lot of consensus around doing.
I don't know, there was such a pushback with the Amenia Green project. Now you're talking about combining that with all of those other projects.
Yes, and I think that the pushback for the Amenia Green is that there was no community engagement. And I think it is required.
But, okay.
Charlie, I had a question. New York Forward seems to be a loan program for housing, rental housing, and disaster funding.
No,
If I'm
no.
not-
Yeah.
I was looking at the different funding parts of it, and I don't see that part of it.
New York Forward is under the downtown revitalization, and it's not a housing program. It's ultimately the funds, and the funds aren't really, they can be used for a number of different ways. What they're trying to do is give a community money so that they can revitalize the downtown and also get private funds contributed to that.
There's also, and that also provides the services of a planner for a year, as I recall.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is that you're not necessarily executing a project, that a lot of the foundational work can be paid for through the grants.
And what's the limitation as far as that's concerned,
The limitation?
money-wise?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
What's the, yeah, how much of a grant, what are they willing to give?
Oh, that's $4.5 million
$4.5.
for small towns.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last two that were awarded just recently were two for $4.5 million.
Which would certainly help.
Yeah. And I should say, like, you know, so the sidewalk to Beekman, this is another great example. That has been worked on for at least 5 years, at least 5 years. And it had just been like sitting there. Nobody took it anywhere until Leo and I started asking questions, just started pushing to get it actually, like, where was the permit? Where was that? And tonight, you now have, you know, a proposal before you that is less than the proposal to do half the work of that, to take it all the way to Beekman, from Broadway to Beekman. So what I'm just asking is if we can, you know, I'm hoping you'll discuss, but I'm hoping we can get a go-ahead to at least have meetings with, you know, other committees to see if there's consensus around it. So there's no financial obligation from the town at this point.
I think I want to talk to everybody on those committees first before I make a decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we will speak and get back to you, but thank you
Okay.
for putting this all together.
Great. And I didn't give a report earlier, but I just wanted, Dawn's not here, but I believe she's going to need authorization to advertise for mowing because that's coming, and I don't think it's happened yet. I wanted to tell the town board that we submitted the AFR, our annual financial report, so that was done. We currently now are employing our cash investment policy, which is really amazing. So Dawn said earlier the amount that she had raised for our real estate taxes. You know, a lot of that cash just has been sitting in the bank, so we now have $3.6 million invested in New York class, and year to date, we've returned $20,000. Which is pretty remarkable. And to finish with Bill on the water district and adding meters to town-owned property, Delaware, the water engineer, in their map plan and report, that was one of their recommendations. So it's not just for water usage, but with the debt repayment that municipal-owned properties were given debt points to. So it means that the whole town is paying for, you know, the water that's being used by the municipality instead of just, you know, the 26% or the, you know, 300 some odd service connections in the water district. Thanks.
I also, I just have a question, not for Charlie, but, so how are we going to do that? So, some of the chairs are already here, so I'm assuming that they'll go back to their committees then? You're expecting that they're gonna go back to their committees and discuss it?
No, I'm going to talk to committee chairs. That's what I want to discuss this with.
Oh, well, most of them are here, so, well, some of them are here, so I'm just thinking that maybe they should go back and talk to their committees.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
I don't know, I mean, you can too, but I just,
Right,
it
yeah,
seems,
yeah.
it just seems that since Charlie has already spoken to them, that maybe they can put them on their agendas and discuss it with the rest. I'm sorry, what did you say?
This is the first time she's seeing it.
Yeah.
So Charlie, could you send the chairs the copy of your plan here?
Can I ask that you include one more from 2002, the Route 22 corridor study? Corridor management planning goes into tremendous detail. It's from Dover Plains up through Northeast. It gives proposed signage, green, talks about sidewalks from Beacon Park to downtown, and a lot of what all these plans discuss.
Ken, you need to go to the mic. Sorry.
I just asked that Charlie include the Route 22 corridor management plan, written in 2002, prepared by Howard Stein Hudson Associates, CNS Engineers, by the Harlem Valley Partnership, Poughkeepsie Dutchess County Transportation Council. Goes into tremendous detail of what the transportation corridor from Dover Plains through the town of Northeast, and it has information like we need sidewalks from Fudgies up to Maplebrook, what the proposed traffic lanes should be, dimensions, proposed signage, various greenscapes and things like that. And I think that you'll find that seemed to be a generative report for a lot of these others. Thank you.
That's great, thank you. Okay, so under discussion, the thing I get yelled about the most, unbelievably, is no one being, well, seniors in particular, not being able to get a parking space in front of the post office. And we've talked about various ways to try to impact that. One is to reduce the number of minutes that you can park in front of the post office, which is pretty straightforward. Another would be a handicap parking space. And we've even talked about enforcement, about, Rosanna's done a lot of research about ticketing. I also think that we should write a letter to the business owners, because the word on the street is that a lot of them park in front of their buildings and are there all day. I don't know if that's true, but that's certainly what people think. So I think they need to be kind of made conscious of that. A lot of the bigger buildings on Main Street have apartments upstairs, and it's not entirely clear if there's enough room for those people to park, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I did talk to New York State DOT to try to get information about what we would need to do in order to make any of those changes. And I know that people are concerned about parking, because I hear that a lot too. There are not enough crosswalks on Main Street. There are 2, there should probably be 4. And people drive really fast. One of the things that might slow them down is more trees and neck downs at the crosswalks, which means it's a shorter crosswalk, and the width of the car on either side is built out. So, that's a variety of things that have been used elsewhere, and so I think that we should look at that. There's a New York State DOT Department of what is it called? Safe Streets, or of Complete Streets. I haven't been able to find an actual person that works there, but they are listed, so we'll see about that. But anyway, the point is that there are a lot of things that we could do. Our expectation is that we will have a more vibrant downtown, and one of the ways to do that is to have people not be afraid for their lives crossing the street, and is to have more trees and make it more pleasant down there. None of those are huge ticket items. Mark's plan, which he'll present, had additional lighting, street lights downtown, plantings, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, that's just something I've been thinking about for a long time, and I just think we should explore what the possibilities are, because there is money for pedestrian safety, and again, people have talked about the downtown looking better for a long time, and there was money for storefront improvements, and it was a real struggle, I know, for Victoria to get anyone to take the money, because they had to put up 20% or agree to, maybe it wasn't even that, they had to agree to keep the storefronts or the facades of their buildings in good shape for 5 years. So anyway, there's a lot that could be done, and I just think we should sort of investigate what can be done.
Leo, when you're talking about safety and the crosswalks, if you go through any of those, pretty much any of those Connecticut towns, Salisbury, and some Salisbury, Lakeville, for all the crosswalks, they have those flashing lights that, when you want to cross, you press the button, the lights flash. Yep. They're high, so you don't have to worry about people being blocked by cars that are parked. I think that should be a huge part of that. And I do agree that there need to be extra crosswalks, because where the crosswalks are currently, I think they're just horrible. It's the widest space that you can possibly have to cross, and they do
You're talking about
have.
at the intersection, not the other crosswalks down. I mean,
Well, no, even
you're
the
No,
one
I'm
by
talking at the
Mechanic.
intersection. So they're the widest possible part of the road. And the one that if somebody's taking a right from coming north on 22, and you take a right to go down on 343, that crosswalk is right there. So if somebody comes around that corner quickly,
Right.
and somebody's in a crosswalk, they do have that time lapse for the light, but you have to be a sprinter in order to be able to get across because the lapse is very short.
Yeah.
And even I've seen people in really good shape get to about the middle of the road. Now, I'm assuming that nobody's gonna run over them, I would hope, but still, I think that, it's just a really bad spot. The other part that's really bad is coming out of Mechanic Street onto Main Street.
Yeah.
That is a horrible spot.
That's the
And,
one
you're not supposed to you're not supposed to stop on a crosswalk. But if you stop where that stop sign, where you're supposed to stop, you can't see. You cannot see up on Main Street. So, and I don't know I'm assuming that's DOT that does that.
They don't do it now. They do review plans that a town produces. I have to believe that in the past, they actually did take that on themselves and had some responsibility for signage and, drainage in the streets and a whole bunch of stuff, which whenever I've spoken to them, they don't seem at all interested in doing. So I think the can has been kicked down the road so that municipalities have to do now what the state used to do. But I think that, if we can give them a list, and even better if we can give them a sketch of places where we think that there should be crosswalks installed, where there need to be warning signs. I think it's really important that people be aware of when they're entering the hamlet. There is a sign that lowers the speed limit, but I don't think there are a lot of speed signs on both of those roads, so I don't think you necessarily see that. But I think there's a lot that could be done to make it, less terrifying at either side of that intersection.
I think some of those crosswalks could be more noticeable if they did the lining better, like the reflective paint, or like I've seen crosswalks where the lines are diagonal across through it. Right now, you just have those two white lines and they're faded.
Right.
So you don't even, for in cars' defense, it's like, there's a crosswalk there? They're not very noticeable. So I think that's an easy fix too.
Yeah, I think all that's doable.
So I think that we should make a list and we should really kind of move forward on that, especially the safety issue, especially with summer coming on and more kids being on the streets, going to the basketball court and other places. So I think it's something that really has some kind of urgency to it.
As far as the parking issues though at the post office, it's DOT, is it just a simple call, like we want this lowered to 30 minutes instead of an hour to 2 hours?
Apparently, they don't, what I was told by the head of traffic was that the DOT doesn't get involved in local parking issues. In other words, the length of time one can park or how one parks or all of that stuff. So they have to review it, of course, but they don't actually have any standards by which they review it, which is very cheering. So I think that a lot of those things, if it's proposed to them, like reducing the length of time you can park in front of the post office, I don't think it's that hard to do. I don't doubt that we're responsible for the cost of replacing the signs, but, maybe not. But I think it would make a big difference, or at least I'd get a lot less complaints.
And what do you need to do to move forward with letters to the business owners?
I need to write it.
Okay. I just want to make sure you need.
No. I mean, that's really all it is. I mean, in fact.
Because I imagine it would be a separate letter to tenants and landlords. Because you're asking,
yes,
because you're
that's a
asking
good point.
business owners to park off the street.
Right.
I don't know what you're going to do about landlords, because my issue is that if I'm a renter and I was told my parking is on the street, I don't know how you deal with that.
Yeah, I don't know how to deal with that either. But I think we have to talk to the building owners and find
Yeah.
out, how many tenants they have, where they told their tenants to park.
Right.
And other stuff like
Because
that.
I know some of them have those back parking lots, some of them don't.
And some of them don't, right, exactly.
But the biggest issue really is infrastructure. When you look at the traffic at that intersection, when you look at how you enter the post office, and if you even look at the size of the post office, I mean, it's certainly not to regulation. I think a better plan would, for the post office to be in a different location. I mean, it's just so congested there. I mean, and I remember a long, long time ago, the Fountain Square used to be a parking lot, you know, in front of the bank, and that's gone. But, yeah, so it really is more than just DOT, more than just traffic lights and crosswalks. It's a bigger issue.
Which I guess is sort of the point of looking at this more holistically.
Right, right.
That would be lovely if we could move the post office. I
Right.
just don't know how you go about that because that's a government building.
Mhm.
Well, they don't own the building, but they do
They rent.
rent
But
it,
they-
and they have for a
right.
long
Yeah.
time.
Yep.
And although there are people, I mean, because the part of the town that doesn't get postal deliveries is the center of the town, people actually do walk
Need
to
it
the post,
there,
I mean, can
right.
walk to the post
Right.
office, so it doesn't require a car necessarily for people that are living right in the downtown. So anyway, it's a complicated issue, but it needs
There
more
is
attention.
one other issue, and was not related to summer. I'm going to switch seasons. This winter, well, not just this winter, other winters, there's always a snowbank there that people, I've seen older people climbing over these snowbanks that are all along the sidewalk. Is there something that we can do about that?
Well, there are a couple of things. One is that Peggy complained to me a couple of years ago about that, and I think the last time we let a contract for the shoveling downtown, part of it was telling them that they had to make openings for people to get out. The downside to that is that, except for the crosswalks at either end, because there's no markings for the cars, you know, a car could just park in front of the opening they make. So, but I don't know how it kind of got dropped out of the contract this year, because it was in there for at least a year. So I think that in terms of our contract with the snow plowing people, that's something that should be discussed with them. But I think, again, it becomes more complicated because where do you make those? If cars can, you know, park anywhere, you have no assurance that you're going to be able to reach it. So it's kind of, it's all complicated.
No,
But, I
understand.
mean, I know that's a big problem, and it has been for a while. I think we've already covered the parking and speeding issues, I think. The issue of the water meter installation was raised earlier, and I think we just have to have a conversation about that as a board. I mean, it does seem reasonable to me that, like, town hall should be paid. The water use at town hall, which is not that extraordinary, but that at least symbolically should be paid by all the residents and not just the people in the water district. And Beekman Park as well, I mean, that's used by everybody. So, I mean, my sense is that that's a pretty reasonable ask. So I don't have a problem with you know, with the town actually paying their own freight on those two locations. I don't know if other people have comments on that.
The cemetery has a meter.
The cemetery is a meter? Wow, okay, then we're, I feel really left out, the town hall doesn't. Okay, well, we can discuss that further, but I think that it's a perfectly good idea and not a difficult thing to do, it just means installing 2 more meters. The Wasaic Center, I'm sorry for going out of order, but the Wasaic Center survey actually got delivered to me by hand in front of the building about 10 minutes ahead of the meeting started. I had really trouble with my printer, but I have at least a copy that you can look at. It's a bigger drawing. What I was handed was a bigger drawing, but it was emailed to me, and unfortunately, that was the best I could do. The copy machine was not very happy about printing this evening. Not to complain about the copier, it usually does. But that means that the work that the enhancement committee started a couple of years ago, I think, looking at the center of Wasaic and trying to figure out how to rationalize the parking and try to make it not just a huge gravel expanse there, but to actually maybe put in some street trees and such. They were pretty excited about that, and this has all been jammed up because of not having a survey and not clarifying the ownership issues. One of the things that this does
Yeah, I saw that.
is it clarifies that there is a weird triangular piece of land that's part of the road and, part of the road and part of the parking area that at one point had another owner. The problem is that the surveyor got this from, the location of this from like an 1888 map, and I believe that our title search company got as far as 1908, and then New York State had taken all the more recent boxes to be microfilmed.
Yeah.
Micro something. Anyway, whatever the new version of that is. So I actually am going to try the governor's office and see if they can get those boxes for us, because when we spoke to New York State, they said, we spoke to the people that are holding the boxes, they basically said, oh, that could be 3 or 5 years from now. So it would be very nice to, know that we're actually building on property that the town owns, and it's maddening that, we don't have the kind of maps in town hall that a lot of other places do that would have answered that question a long time ago. So I am making myself a note right now to call the governor's office. We actually have a person that is responsible for this region. But anyway, the fact that we have this now means that enhancement can get back to work, because they did a lot of work in a short period of time and then ran into the issue of ownership and the fact that we didn't have a survey, so it was really hard to draw up anything without knowing. Everything is at an odd angle in the middle of Wassaic. Nothing is really parallel one to the other, so it really is important to have a survey for them to work with. So the next thing was food truck regulations, which I have to apologize. I did not read through all of that stuff, and actually Mike Segelkin, I think I forwarded it to you all, but Mike Segelkin, or Seglikin, also had got something from another town.
Yeah.
So,
I was looking at Red Hooks. He forwarded Red Hooks, or somebody forwarded. I liked Red Hooks. I thought it was short, sweet, and to the point. And we can always doctor it up. Did anybody else have a chance?
I looked at I
Ethica's was
liked the
way
Red
too
Hook
much.
one, and
Yeah.
I think Socrates and Ithaca were the other two that we received,
Ethica's was
and they
small.
were much bigger areas, and included a lot of things that I don't think
Yeah,
that we
we
really need
needed.
to include.
Right.
Because it really doesn't impact us. I think basically what we need to do is I really liked Red Hook's definitions. I think that was important. I like the fact that, and I think all of them might have had this. I think that we need to definitely include, that part about they're in charge of their own trash, that they need to have their own trash receptacles and that kind of thing. And I did have a question though. When it talked about citing, it talked about public property. It can only be on private property, but,
Right.
so a park would be public property, correct? Or was that considered?
Yeah, some of the codes actually addressed. So when I went through all these different codes, I had a reason for giving every one that was there. I actually liked Ithaca, which,
Oh,
sorry guys.
sorry.
but some of them addressed how I think Amenia is, or at least my perception of how our food trucks are coming about. This question's always come up on events, whenever we're doing events here, and I don't recall which township actually addressed it, but they do have, it was like a special permit that you would get, a short-term permit for special events.
Right.
And then they would list those out. Because some of them, the way they set it up is a food truck that's going to be set up somewhere on a road or a property where they get their permit, they'll have it for a year, and they got to renew it yearly. But it's kind of like the hot dog truck that's set up at some
Right.
corner somewhere that everybody goes to. That's like, versus, I don't know if that's really what we're envisioning here, much more
This is more for the special events.
for the special events. So,
Like, we have Little League that would like to have food trucks at Beekman Park. We have us that would like to have food trucks at Beekman Park, or wherever Beekman Park would be allowed, because we don't want them on 343 or 22 or 44. So it would be to have them at Beekman Park for our music series. So that's what we're looking for, is to be able to allow them to come in for these special events.
So I heard Red Hook. Somebody did say Ithaca, but I heard Red Hook. Are there other ones that we would like? Because what I can do is start formulating one now from this.
The only other one I had looked up, and I don't think you included it, but Fish Gills had, in there's the roads you were not allowed to be on. So do we have to put in there somewhere that we, you know, like, so there was a question about whether or not it was DOT that regulated it or it was us. And from looking at fish skills, it looks like it's us that determines if they can be on 44, 343.
Well,
Did you get complaints at the music festival last year?
Because of the
about
noise,
It was about the noise, but not about the trucks parking on
I
the
believe so.
state road?
Right.
Okay.
I think Dawn had made a complaint
So-
about it being on the state road.
Yeah, Dawn did make a complaint about it being on the
Told that
state
you
road.
couldn't,
Right,
Yes,
could not park.
that was Dawn because our peddler's permit
right,
doesn't allow for it.
right,
So that's where the food truck regulation came in, because it would resolve the issue at hand.
right.
They were allowed to be in our lower parking lot, but our lower parking lot was too far from the event to walk from the food to hear the music across the lawn. So
I thought we could have it in the parking lot.
we don't have the authority to give a permit for a state highway.
Okay.
We
You don't
can't
own it.
control 343, 44, or 22. They
So
need
that's
to
why
get their
that's
own-
why I'm confused.
DOT needs to get their own, would have to be able to, on our current peddler's permit, it says you have to get permission from the property owner to be at that location. If you're not at the house, like we had up, the hot dog stand down by, between Jack's and down in Wasaik, and they used to have it right there. So they were able to use their peddler permit, they were able to sell food there, no problems. It was her property. But when they're trying to ask to be here on the main highway, you need to get permission. Just like the one up by Sharon Station Road, unfortunately, we weren't able to issue that peddler's permit because she didn't have a letter from DOT or New York State saying she could be there. The same issue happened up in Millerton. It wasn't a Dawn or a Amenia thing, it was.
No, that's not what I'm
they came
saying.
down and-
I just know there was mention that they couldn't be on
So we
343.
couldn't have them, I can't give a permit to be on 343.
But it
But my
seems-
point is, I saw Fishkill's food truck laws, codes, and they actually state out roads that they do not want them on in
And they also
44.
provide a list as to where they're going to be on their properties.
Wait, where they're gonna be on town
Go
property?
to on the website.
My point was just that they listed out the roads they can't be on, so I'm like, why would they need to list that if it wasn't allowed anyway?
There's a lot more roads in Fishkill than they do in Amenia.
yeah, I think too, if you look at how they structure their applications on this, like, there are a lot of requirements that really narrow where these are gonna go. That's,
Yeah.
it's essentially how they're controlling many of these questions, will be controlled within the application process itself.
Okay,
I just pulled up Red Hooks again, and I liked, Red Hooks actually was my favorite initially, but then I found Ithaca's, and I did like Ithaca's because I think it tried to address, both concepts of these, of like a long-term station versus, or location. But Red Hooks is great. I thought theirs was pretty good.
But
And
one thing that Red Hook does say, it does say specifically that they don't want the trucks on travel thoroughfares, like main highways and things, that's right.
right,
Yeah.
which is what we
Yeah.
want that anyway.
Can we maybe, just circulate?
yeah, want me to
comments
just circulate? Well, what I can do is, if we can narrow it down, if that's the one we like, then why don't, I can recirculate it if that's easier for the board.
Yeah.
So you don't have to find it again.
Can't be that hard, but okay.
Whatever you want, I'll do whatever you need.
But anyway, I think if we can make specific comments, I mean, if we can just sort of try to narrow down
Yeah.
what's appealing and what's not, would make it easier for everyone. Yes?
Can I just ask a question? Well,
Please.
I've been talking to a food truck now that's gonna be over to Beacon Park. You know, we have to get a permit and stuff, but our season's gonna start soon. Are we gonna be able to get a peddler's permit for this person to come to Beekman Park to
Will
set
we have a
up?
problem on town property, Dawn, with the
No.
peddler's permit?
So what I would recommend is that the rec commission send the request to the town board, so the way the because it's still town property.
Yes.
So the town would have to provide a letter to that requester.
Oh, okay.
And then that requester would be attaching it to the peddler's permit.
Okay, because we're.
I mean,
But I would send it sooner than later.
Well, I just got them Tuesday night, so I've been talking to a couple of them, and I got
Then
somebody
they
that
can
we
add
want
it
to
to their
use.
next agenda, so if you can have it to Leo before, end of Wednesday, so next Thursday he has it, he can add it to the next agenda.
Okay, right.
thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that like town property is pretty easy, I mean, pretty straightforward. I mean, there still would need to be a permit, but I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be on town property.
It's just a technicality of having a food truck code in place.
Right.
The other thing that I like is the fact that it says not within 150 feet of the entrance of a restaurant.
Right,
So I think that's really important because, you know, we don't want to take business away from
right.
town businesses.
Okay. That is a good one.
I think we need to make sure that we post the times and what the permit fees are, what, if there are any, you know, if there's any fines for, I don't know what you can possibly do to break the law, but, or maybe not have your permit shown or whatever. You know, so I think all of that has to be very specific so that when people apply, they are really clear on what they need to do.
Would the verbiage be that this is a special event permit?
Similar to Red Hook. Red Hook is the one that had that special.
Yeah, okay.
And they did it both for public and private properties.
Mhm.
So, Red Hook's is a good one.
Okay.
There are other places, like I know in Hudson, they have like a parking lot where all the food trucks are
Yeah.
gathered. But, I mean, you know, we're a much smaller area and a much smaller market, so I don't know that we really need something of that scale. But anyway, but I like the idea of coming to like Beekman Park or the, you know, the basketball court or something.
I know businesses that do it as employee appreciation days. They'll get different food trucks every month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Don't tell the town hall.
So could you do that for us, please?
Um,
Really nice.
Right.
Okay, well, we'll table that. All right, let's move on to the resolution, which is only one. And I guess I should read it unless someone else has
Consent
it.
agenda.
Consent agenda.
So at this time, is there anyone willing to make,
Oh,
to
consent
move,
agenda.
you're welcome, move on the consent agenda? For this would be moving resolution number 44, transfer of funds.
I'll make that motion.
Leo?
Yes.
Rosanna?
You said 44?
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Great. Carries. And now you have resolution on the non-consent agenda, which would be resolution number 45.
Oh,
So in your packet.
in my packet, which is the back
just
of
take
this.
Yeah, I did the non-consent.
Thank you for being so orderly. Okay, awarding bid for the Route 44 sidewalk extension project. Whereas the town board of the town of Amenia previously authorized the solicitation of bids for the Route 44 sidewalk extension project in the town of Amenia, and whereas bids were duly advertised and solicited for the,
Charlie is very happy right now with me.
whereas bids were, don't get in my way here, Charlie. Whereas bids were duly advertised and solicited for the work to be conducted, and 3 bids were received, opened and read aloud by the town clerk, and whereas the following bids were received, Southern Industries Corporation, $234,326.50. Scape Tech Landscape Technology, $328,000, $32,008.
$328,355.
Thank you, that was perfect. And Maruti Construction, which was the highest at $409,000 without any of that extra stuff. Whereas by letter dated March 12, 2025, Labella, who's the engineer on the project, advised that the lowest responsible bidder was Southern Industries Corporation and recommends that the town board award the contract to Southern Industries Corporation in the amount of $234,326.50. All is set forth in the aforementioned recommendation letter, a copy of which is annexed here too and made part hereof. Now therefore be it resolved as follows: the recitations set forth above are incorporated in this resolution as if fully set forth and adopted herein. The town of Amenia hereby awards the contract for Route 44 sidewalk extension project to Southern Industries Corporation in the amount of, well, you know how much that is. $234,326.50. And 3 In accordance with the authorized bid specifications, the town board hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute the contract documents as prepared by the engineers to the town, including the notice of award and notice to proceed, and forward a copy to Southern Industries Corporation after the attorney to the town has confirmed that Southern Industries Corporation has duly executed the contract documents, has supplied the necessary performance bond, labor and materials payment bond, and provided insurance certificates as required by the bid specification. For funding for this project shall be paid from the capital project fund for the Route 44 sidewalk extension, budget line number 54102.21.106. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Supervisor Blackman.
Yes.
Council members Ahern,
Yes.
Reveler,
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
And I want to apologize to Ian and to Charlie because when they suggested rebidding the whole thing, instead of just working out a deal with the previous contractor, I made fun of them. And in fact, we saved a lot of money, so thank you both for insisting. Okay. Are there any other matters? What? Oh, you're right, it is your copy. Thank you. And you even have the number on it.
I
No,
do.
she's absolutely, did I take more than that?
No, you're good.
Okay. Okay. Bill?
I have a question.
Yes?
Can you go to the mic?
Oh, you have to go to the mic.
You're transferring funds
Yes?
from the American Rescue Fund to the
Mhm.
Highway Garage.
Yep.
Where is that money coming from?
The American Rescue Fund.
But why is that going to the Highway Garage, not the water company?
Because we split it between the highway garage, the water project, and a third thing, and the sidewalk.
Sidewalk.
So that was split between 3 projects.
Equal amounts?
I don't think it was equal amounts. I mean, it's in a previous agenda, but, I mean, a previous resolution. But there was a decision made by the board to split it that way. Because we had to assign it before the end of the year, so we,
Well, yeah, everything seems to be on a very, very short time frame. So,
you go right ahead. Not yet. You want to hold it for public comment? Okay. Are there other matters from the board?
Yes, actually, I wanted to share that I had attended a Zoom meeting for microtransit, and it was really very interesting. Putnam County is piloting a program to increase their transportation, so it's kind of a cross between an Uber and a bus. So it's very affordable. It has, and some of the advantages that they had were it is flexible. So buses have a fixed route, and people can't always get to them. There's a short, you actually contact them, there's an app, you can contact them and set up your ride and it's very, in Putnam County, Patterson in particular, they have a lot of people who are seniors, who are disabled, who are vets, who are students that need transportation because it's a rural area, like our area is a rural area, and they don't have access to transportation. So, and it's affordable. It's like $2.50 for a regular person. For seniors, it's $1.25, and for students, it's $1.25. And it really sounded pretty exciting. So, to follow up on that, I actually had a conversation with Deirdre Houston and asked if Duchess had looked into any of this, and she was going to look into what Putnam is doing. However, she did say that we do have programs. Duchess Transit has a program called Go Go Grandparent that does transportation for that particular age group, and then they just started in January having Go Go Veteran. And she suggested that perhaps we invite Duchess Transit to come to the town board and share with the kind of the programs that they have. So I would really think that I would like to do that because there may be some programs that we are not aware of. And then she said in doing that, we can study, what they do currently and look at the demographics and see if there's any gaps, if there's any demographics that are not that do not fit under that we could, change that. So she was very much in favor of that, and so I would suggest that we put them on our agenda, to invite them to come, and,
That's great, just figure out when.
all right, so Dawn, when do you think we could have them come?
Well, you have, well, I don't know if April would be too soon, but you have 2 meetings in April. Maybe the 17th might work as just.
All right, so I will
presentation.
ask,
The 17th is
You'll be-
Mark.
you'll
Oh,
be-
you're going to be away too.
But that might be just an easy night to do presentation.
That's
and then
fine.
have actions.
It's fine.
yeah, and that's fine, and I'll reach out to Deirdre and see if she can, if they can do that. The other, there was another thing, so she'll do that, and they can come and meet with us at that particular time. The other thing that we did have a conversation about was, I brought up a while back about people approaching me about give back for pharmaceuticals and drugs. I got nowhere basically with Amenia drugstore. The owner of that drugstore is kind of, I guess he's not from around here. It's a big corporation. So she said that surprisingly, when she walked into the Millbrook Village Hall, that they had one there. And it was actually in the Village Hall, and she said perhaps we could look into having one here in Town Hall. She spoke with, and so she
This
said
is
she want.
Deidre.
Huh?
This is still a conversation with Deidre.
With Deirdre, yeah. We had a very nice conversation. So the information, she said, the chief of police there in the village of Millbrook used CAPE, C-A-P-E, and that's something with, let me just double check.
The council,
It's located in Wappers Falls, what?
it's the Council of Addiction and Prevention.
Right.
Oh,
That's something that I think that we should look into, because otherwise they end up in landfills and wherever they should.
absolutely. I mean, you've been investigating that, so
Yeah.
if you want to keep investigating, that's lovely. If you want us to do something
Okay,
different.
no, I can do that. I just
Okay.
want to make sure that it's okay with you guys.
No, I think it's great. I
Because it'll
mean-
be located in the town hall.
Right, instead of trying to have people come out to do a day, I think that makes more sense.
Yeah.
The box.
Yeah, that's way better, because it's
Yeah.
here all the time. And who's responsible for taking it away? Is that done by?
Well, those are
police or
details I'd
sheriff?
have to find out. I would have to either reach out, back out to Deirdre or contact the chief of police in
Okay.
the village of Millbrook, which I can
Right.
do either or.
But, I mean, obviously, we don't have police, so it'd probably have to be either most likely, it would be the Dutchess County Sheriffs or the state troopers, I would think.
Mhm.
So, okay, well, that's great. Thank you for investigating. Any other matters?
The only thing I have is I'd like to make a motion to have Dawn hire, or post for 2 recreation leaders at $18 an hour, up to 20 hours a week.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Actually, there is one other comment I want to
You
make.
go right ahead.
I'm sorry. This is a logistical issue. We have a lot of activities starting up in the town. You know, we have a rec commission that is doing great work and is really moving forward on a lot of things that will interest the town. We also have, we hired a planner for the comprehensive review, and people might want to be involved with that as well. And unfortunately, they meet on the same night, and I think that we need to somehow make sure that our meetings are not happening on
I
the
saw
same
an
night.
email from Vicki today to say that they're going to discuss that at their
I told,
meeting, I think, on
they have a
Tuesday.
presentation plan for the April 8th meeting, so I said keep it and then try to figure it out going forward.
Okay.
So even if it's a different Tuesday in the month, that,
Well, that would probably make sense
Yeah.
anyway, just so people can,
Okay,
it's
good.
easier for the liaisons too. Okay, is that it? Any town board comments that are not other matters? Okay, seemingly not. Any public comment? We wore you out, huh? Oh, no, I thought, Vicki, you were gonna come back.
Vicki Doyle, 320 South Amenia Road, Wassaic. I was just going to say, I was kind of sorry to hear that you used some of the rescue funds for the sidewalk, which is a laudable plan, and also for the highway garage. But the water district, as I remember, had such a long laundry list of serious capital improvement projects that are desperately needed, and that is a small group of residents who are going to be facing those bills with a very small tax base. And it seems where possible, where you have a windfall like that, that isn't necessarily earmarked for the entire town, those funds would be really important to keep that downtown affordable housing, affordable with good, safe drinking water. So that was just my gut feeling there, but I understand there's a lot of expensive projects in front of the town, so it was a one-time windfall that I know you had to use.
Also, there's a lot more
carefully.
money for water these days than any
That's
of the other
great.
options, so
The
there is gonna be-
150,000 will probably be leveraged in that way, right, to help pay for
Yeah.
those projects. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vicki.
Can I just so that I can...
It was resolution 120
Of the ARPA funds?
of ARPA
So,
funds.
so the town board actually dedicated we received $451,000 of ARPA funds. The town board dedicated $200,000 of that to the water district. And then the rest was split between the highway garage and the sidewalk. And the money had to be earmarked against a signed contract by last year. So they were sort of down to the wire as to how to allocate the rest of the funds. So at that point, we had a contract with Delaware Engineering to do a portion of their engineering. That was Lavelle Road, which is what that was. We had a contract with a sidewalk vendor, and we had a contract with an engineer for the highway garage. So that's how that was required to be done.
I will say that unfortunately, the money, the $200,000 that was spent on on water was not spent well due to our previous water operator. There was fracking done to the existing well without getting permits, and a whole bunch of other stuff that was ridiculous. But with the property, yeah, I know. It was sort of I'm sorry? So, anyway, so it's sort of unfortunate because money was actually spent for water, but just not well spent. Okay, if that's it.
Well, there is actually one little...
Oh, I'm sorry. Were there- Thank you, Judy.
I'll be quick. I just wanted to say I'm not against the idea of looking at the plan to combine all of these past projects. It's just that the Recreation Commission is in the middle of a fairly long-term project here on Amenia Green, and we're actually discussing how we want to move forward with that and what we want to do, and we have funds that are dedicated that can only be used for that. So I think the time frame of trying to come to a decision by the end of April is not likely to work well for us, that's all.
Thank you.
Can we get that clock fixed before the next meeting?
I know, I was saying, oh my God, it's so early tonight, but yes, because John, our building super, will be back on Monday. So I will get him to do that on Monday. Anyway, I will then make a motion to adjourn.
And I will second. Not bad.
No?
So it's 8:41. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Robert, I can get you a battery. Doesn't even need a battery?
Okay, thank you all for,
Thank you.
for coming, and,
Stuck at 7. It was weird because it was
oh. Oh.